Welcome back to 340 Paddler, and today I have a tale of two paddlers. Basically, why you should stay in the boat. So let's look at our two paddlers. We have Paddler A and Paddler B. They're both going to average about 6 miles an hour. This is roughly an average middle of the pack speed for the 340. They're both in identical, suitable 16 plus foot boats. You don't have to be in a 16 plus foot boat, but I find that that's the best fit for the 340. They both have equal training. The only difference is Paddler A will have better checkpoint discipline. And what I want to show you is how quickly things can get out of hand. So let's start. We are at the start of the race. We are on our way to Lexington, and we will have two different decisions. Paddler A will arrive at Lexington at 3:35. Paddler B will arrive at 3:30. Well, so far so good for Paddler B. Now, Paddler A stopped for 5 minutes at Napoleon, about 38 miles into the race, River Right. Paddler B stopped for 30 minutes at Lexington. This is not uncommon. This is actually a pretty average stop for Lexington. Paddler A will go ahead and skip Lexington. So by the time they leave Lexington, Paddler B will never again see Paddler A, because Paddler A is 25 minutes ahead downriver, and 25 minutes at 6 miles an hour is roughly 2.5 miles ahead. So we're coming into Waverly, and of course there are two Waverlys. There's Waverly, and then about half a mile downstream, just past the bridge, River Right, is second Waverly. Paddler A will arrive at Waverly at 7:25, Paddler B at 7:50, maintaining that 25-minute difference. Paddler A will fly by first Waverly and stop at second Waverly for 15 minutes. Waverly is frequently a little bit longer stop for a lot of people. Paddler B will maintain the same 30 minutes, will stop at Waverly. They're both gone, and because of that shorter stop, we now have a 40-minute difference. Then we have Paddler C, who also arrives at 7:50, but decides to go to sleep at Waverly. This is a bad idea because he will wake up and see the sun at Waverly, and that's never good. If you see the sun at Waverly, you will not finish the 340. Then we have Hills Island. They're both paddling into Hills Island, 12 miles downriver from Waverly. Paddler A gets there at 9:40, flies by, or maybe does a quick short stop to stretch, but he's out of there by 9:45. Paddler B will arrive at 10:20. Will try and sleep for 2 hours. They will not sleep well. The reason is you simply aren't tired enough yet. You're fighting adrenaline to sleep this early in the race. It takes him 15 minutes. I'm being very conservative to get back in the boat. He's off Hills Island at 12:35. You see we have roughly a 3-hour difference here. Things will get worse. Let's go to Miami, 20 miles downriver from Hills Island. Paddler A will arrive at Miami about 1 a.m., Paddler B about 4 a.m. Huge difference here. 1 a.m. you're tired, but you can push on. 4 a.m. you're in the witching hour. You probably won't push off. And Paddler A takes an hour to eat, stretch, and wait for another paddler leaving because he doesn't want to paddle on his own to Glasgow. He leaves Miami at 2 a.m. Paddler B arrives at 4, stops to try and sleep for 2 hours, still gets very poor sleep because you're still fighting adrenaline, trying to get your heart rate down. Takes him 30 minutes, again conservatively, to get back into the boat. He's out of Miami at 6:30 a.m. Now he's comfortable, he's well ahead of the Reaper, but he's still 4.5 hours behind Paddler A. So that's going to be a big difference. Let's go on to Glasgow real quick. And Paddler A will get into Glasgow 36 miles downriver from Miami about 7 a.m. Paddler B about 12:30 p.m. Paddler A will take about 30 minutes to eat and shower. Nothing unusual. I'm not talking 5-minute stops here. He is out of Glasgow at 7:30 a.m. Paddler B arrives at 12:30, stops for 90 minutes. He's just as sore as Paddler A. He has the same amount of poor sleep, and he's not going to sleep in the middle of the day, most likely. And he's leaving Glasgow at 2 p.m., which means Paddler A probably has hit the next checkpoint, is probably near to Jeff City by the time Paddler B is leaving Glasgow. So we're talking about a difference of something around 75, 80 miles between the two of them. It's quite impressive. And this is not unusual. This is based on some of my races. Paddler A is roughly what I've done in 2015. Paddler B is roughly what I did in 2012. Now, let's extrapolate this. I don't want to go through every checkpoint, but let's take this to the finish. Paddler A will get to the finish, get to St. Charles in 60 to 65 hours, which is 7 p.m. Thursday to 12 a.m. Friday. Paddler B will take 75 to 80 hours and get there between 10 and 3 on Friday. The difference here is Paddler A will get 8 to 9 hours of sleep, breakfast, and probably beer from someone before helping Paddler B out of their boat. Now, I'm pointing this out not to say that you need to have great checkpoint discipline and you must finish this race in 60 hours, but rather to show you that at the same pace, that checkpoint discipline can be the difference between a 60-hour finish and an 80-hour finish. It can have massive implications. My first year in 2012, I spent 16 hours on shore. I would have finished in about 60, 62 hours if I just paddled straight through or if I had a lot better checkpoint discipline. So, we're all in this together. We're all trying to get to St. Charles, but the faster you get to St. Charles, the faster the hurting stops. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, quarrels, qualms, quandaries, curse words, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, this is 340 Paddler, hoping that you keep your paddle in the water.